Oh, yay! There you are. Okay. We are now on the air with Cheryl Angel, the wonderful Cheryl Angel, who has just returned to her home in what? Where are you at now?
I'm in our ancestral treaty lands in Rapid City, South Dakota, also referred to by treaty as the Great Sioux Nation.
Okay, very good. Well, let me start us out here. So, welcome everyone. Bienvenidos a todos a Conciencia Planetaria. Today we're going to do our program in English, and tomorrow, 24 hours later, it will be available on YouTube in Spanish. En 24 horas va a estar disponible en español. And I'm Tracy Barnett with the Esperanza Project. And today, 11/11, a number with very special significance, I'm so honored to be joined by Cheryl Angel, a Sicangu Lakota elder and sacred activist, a woman who has inspired so many around the world to be more aware of their water, of the lands that we walk on. And she is also a very dear friend since 9 years ago when I met Cheryl at the Call of the Water in, where was it? It was in Bacalar.
Yeah, Bacalar.
Water. So water has been a big theme for both of us, and we have connected again and again with the water theme and also with the other subject of our talk this morning, which is Mexico, because we are both inspired by the examples and the things that we have learned in Mexico and in Latin America in general, right, Cheryl?
Yes.
Correct.
Viva Mexico.
Viva Mexico. Absolutely. Okay. Well, I thought Cheryl was in Mexico this morning, but she just returned to her home. And so that's why we had a little bit of a delay because this morning she is an hour behind. And that time change just happened actually just a week ago. So we're all just getting adjusted. So thank you for your patience, everybody. And so now we'll go ahead and begin the interview. A little bit of background about Cheryl. She was among the first water protectors at Standing Rock. And through that experience and her travels to Mexico, she developed a profound understanding of sovereignty, not just as a political idea, but as a way of life, and one that begins with our relationship to water, which is very relevant for Cheryl as a water protector, and to the earth and to each other. So Cheryl, welcome back to, bueno, I'm going to say welcome back to Mexico, but welcome back to Rapid City, which is also very wonderful. And welcome to Conciencia Planetaria. It's such a joy to have you here. So, you just spent a week in Mexico, is that right?
Yes, I was in Mexico with 12 other abuelas, grandmothers from different parts of the world. But it was called the Voices of the Grandmothers of the Americas. And so it was a beautiful exchange of ceremony, of wisdom, of teachings, and it was made available to whomever could attend. It was and I want to say it was in land-based. That was beautiful. Had been restored. It was an old, I think, Boy Scouts area where they did training.
Oh, in Mestitla? Were you in Mestitla?
Yeah,
that's where the last Vision Council was, in Mestitla. It's beautiful. In Tepoztlan, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. Just so beautiful. Under these incredible cliffs that kind of like guardians, no?
Yep.
Yeah.
They're definitely guardians. It's a beautiful, energetic place to have ceremony.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about how did it feel to be back in Mexico again? After how long?
It's been years. I was there just before COVID started. We went on a journey through the mountains, the northern mountains of Mexico, and we were in Guadalajara. We were also in Nayarit and a couple other places.
Yeah. So that last time when you came to see me and we went on that trip with, yeah, that was your last time in Mexico?
Yes, that was my last time in Mexico.
Oh, well, that was 5 years ago.
That was in 2020. Yes.
Yes, that was just as the pandemic was starting, and it was incredible. That was an incredible journey. We went all the way we drove this incredible epic journey to let's see if I can remember. We went to Zacatecas, and then from there we took another bus to Huejuquilla, where Susana Valadez has her Casa Huichol center, a cultural center for Wirarica people. And then together we went to the beach. That was fantastic. Yeah, we went to what's the name of Diane's community there? I'm blanking out on beautiful eco village right there on the coast of Nayarit. Yeah, that was wonderful. Really nice memories. And all of that connected with water and with indigenous people, which is one of the things that you spent a long time traveling on that trip, right? Like over a month.
Yes, I started in Chile.
Oh, okay. Oh, you started with the Raíces de la Tierra, the Roots of the Earth event, and there is now a film about that, a beautiful movie with Cheryl and our dear friends Heriberto and Nubia are featured in, and we can share more information about that later. But yeah, I'm kind of wandering. We're kind of wandering all over the place here as your path has taken you. So you started your trip in Chile, and then
and then we went to Mexico on that epic journey, that long to see other sacred sites, and we did end up on the beach. We had ceremony there with some indigenous people, and that eco village. I really support the eco village. I think it's called Litibu.
Litibu, yeah, that's the name of a little bird that lives there. Yeah, Litibu.
So they want to turn that over and put it into the hands of indigenous people. And the original owners or the original builders had actually been traveling to different parts of the world because they came from the 60s and they believed, and at that time, there wasn't a lot of support for international third world indigenous communities. So they devised a plan, and they carried out the plan for I don't know 20 years, and they vowed each summer to go to separate locations. This group did because they were couples. They would go to these separate locations in Asia, Mexico, and they would help them build a community project. And the community project usually took about 3 to 5 years. And then they went to another indigenous community that needed services such as clean water or a school or permaculture or housing, whatever the issue was. They did their best and they worked on it. And every summer, that's where they spent their lives. So they have a lot of wisdom, a lot of a lot of respect for indigenous people. And then and after 20 years of doing the work, they said, why don't we build an eco village of our own and then invite indigenous people there?
Wow. And that was the story of Litibu?
Yeah. Yeah. That's the story of Litibu.
About that.
Yeah.
Wow.
They were international indigenous supporters, and they went into these tiny rural areas that needed structural support.
Wow. How
And
did
the
I not know
people
that story? That
and the people did it using their ancient technology and their ancient wisdom, and then they took that technology and that wisdom to Litibu.
wow, that's a beautiful backstory that I feel like I should know that since I spent that time there with you. But thank you for sharing that now.
Yeah, and so they pretty much their retirement age, and now they want to transition into make it into like a not a quasi form of land back because they want them to steward the land.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so our producer, our wonderful producer Car, is sharing some photos with us now, and what we're seeing are photos from Standing Rock, and most of our English speakers, I think, know about Standing Rock, but just briefly, Cheryl, I'm going to ask you to say in just a few sentences what was Standing Rock to help orient those who aren't familiar with it. And then if you could, we will come back to Mexico for sure, but let's start with Standing Rock, since that is where I first became aware of you and where a lot of the world first became aware of you. So tell me about that. What first brought you to Standing Rock, and what did that experience awaken in you?
Yeah. Well, I want to backtrack a couple of years before Standing Rock because in my community, the Sicangu, Lakota, Oyate, my tribe, we had a prayerful resistance camp that we set up in 2014, and it was there for 2 years, and it was Sicangu, Wichoti, Iyuksha, and we had set that up to defend the Oglala Aquifer from the building of a pipeline by KXL, and it was
Hmm.
a Trans Canada pipeline. And
Okay.
at that camp that we sent up, we lit a sacred fire. All of the spiritual elders came, and each of them said a prayer. The community was there. It was a big feed, a big prayer, and we set up. They created a bundle, and then they created an altar, and that was the beginning of my water protection
Okay.
activity, I should
That
say.
was the first resistance camp,
Yes,
wasn't it?
it
And
was
that
the
was
first
in what year? Like 2014?
2014. So
Yeah.
I spent there off and on for 2 years supporting that camp. And when we finally closed it in 2016, at the end of March, we had our we had the second anniversary, and then the next on April 1st, just in a couple days later, Sacred Stone opened,
Right.
and Sacred Stone followed the same format that the Sinchangu Choti Oyuksha camp had started, and that was that they brought all of the spiritual leaders there in prayer, and they set up a resistance camp. And so
Right.
a lot of the knowledge that I took from the Rosebud camp, which is the short term for the Sinchangu Lakota Oyate, the people call us Rosebud. So so there was a handful of us that maintained that camp. Um, And we were at the beginning of Standing Up. We moved from one camp to the other camp. So that was how I ended up in Cannonball, North Dakota at the Sacred Stone Camp. It was,
Mhm.
that's
I
how I did.
remember. I remember this story very well because I was at Standing Rock too, but not for very long, and I didn't have the privilege of meeting Cheryl at that time. But I did hear about her, and I heard about the resistance on the backwater bridge, and the whole story was just incredible. It impacted my life so much. And so when I met Cheryl, I asked her for the opportunity to interview her, and we did a couple of different interviews, and that interview is available on the Esperanza Project page, which I believe that Cara is going to show us here in a minute, but also we'll include that in the links afterwards, and that will tell you in great detail about what happened there.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so I interrupted you, but go on.
Yeah. So Tracy, so what I was going to say is that so when I went to Sacred Stone, um, I had this skills. I had skills that I gained at the Rosebud Camp. We focused on outreach. We focused on creating alliances. We focused on telling the story. And then, of course, the dangers and the basics of what a pipeline is, what it carries, how it's built, the chemicals that they use, um, and then what was truly what they tried to hide from the people is that they were only going to be there for a limited time after the building of the pipeline. And should anything happen to that pipeline, then it became the responsibility of the landowners. And that wasn't told to people up front. So we did research and we shared information. And the outreach that we did created alliances worldwide. And that that method or that formula, I want to say, that strategy worked because a few years after we shut down the camp, then we moved into the legal phase, and these alliances with other tribes and with other countries, other nonprofits. Um, we beat the KXL Keystone Pipeline.
Yeah, that was such a powerful thing. And you also beat Dapple, but then we had another
Mhm.
president who.
We had another precedent, and what had happened is the permit was illegal, and the court system was able to manipulate the hearing of that court date, um, and they used when President Trump came in, he literally signed, you know, the lease that allows them to go between one country and another country. He
Mm-hmm.
signed that interstate or international agreement and allowed DAPL.
Wow.
Actually, he allowed
Yeah.
DAPL, the Dakota Access Pipeline, to be built, to
Yeah.
actually be fast tracked and skip the whole EIA environmental impact
Yeah.
study. He allowed that to go through without even following that, and that was the last thing Obama did before he left office. Is that he said that we need to do an environmental impact study.
Mm.
And so that
Just
study was never done. The court hearing was held after the pipeline was built. We were forcefully removed. And then in court, the judge said, yes, you are correct. And what we had been saying the entire time we were at the camp is that they didn't have a legal permit to go under the water, the Minnesota. And we were right. The court agreed and said, but since it is already built, um, we're going to let the oil flow. And right now, Standing Rock still has the legal precedent to, I believe, remove that pipeline because it is illegal and it's on tribal land. I mean, it's on unceded tribal territory.
yeah, right, right. So that's one case where being right just isn't enough.
Yeah.
And your people have lived with that circumstance for 500 years
Mhm.
now.
Yeah.
It's got to be infuriating. It is. It's
Mm.
infuriating.
And it's important to know that when we set up both those camps, that they were set up with our spiritual elders, and that we had a ceremony and we created a sacred bundle, and that we maintained those spaces as ceremonial spaces, and that we were there living as we were living for thousands of years, and that's always in prayer. That's a colonized word, prayer. What I want to say, in commune with the spirits around us, with the land, with the water, and on a spiritual basis, in commune with the spiritual elements around us, but actually in community with people. So those are two concepts that I think define our relationship because we really are in commune with land, animals, and plant and water, and but we do live in community with people.
Yeah. I will say for the brief time that I was there, it was such an impactful experience to be able to just get a glimpse of how life might be when people are in community and connection with the land in prayer, as you say. And there was a spirit of just cooperation, gentleness. I will never forget, coming in as a, completely unprepared white person who hadn't brought the right gear for the terrible snows that were there and the terrible cold. But people reached out and took care of me and my sister, who was with me at the time, Tammy, and we were taken care of. And it was not our intention to come and be a burden, but
Mm.
it ended up that, and we weren't made to feel as though we were a burden, but
Mm.
it was such a humbling lesson for
Yeah.
us.
Well, so when I was at 2 years in Rosebud, we prayed and we kept a sacred fire lit, and we prayed and we continually asked for help. We asked for guidance. We asked for um, everything, to stop the KXL pipeline. So that stance of being in prayer, of wanting help, put us in a position, especially in Sacred Stone, that we were in that same prayer We lit a sacred fire. We built an altar. We prayed every day. We sang. We told stories. So um, for 3 months, I think April, May, and June, and July, we prayed every single day for people to come support us. And so when people came by the thousands, it was amazing. It was the answer to not a single prayer, but for a unified prayer from the community to stop that pipeline. And so
Yes,
people were overjoyed. We were ecstatic. We were happy. It was like, yeah, and it was unbelievable. But we could not stop smiling. We were so happy and we were so thankful. And it happened the way it was supposed to happen um, because there were great lessons learned in that occupation. And
absolutely.
it wasn't a failure on our part. So we don't have anything to regret. Well, I don't anyway. I don't have anything to regret. I prayed as hard as I could. I stood up in ceremony as hard as long as I could, and yeah, and we trusted the courts to do the right thing, and it didn't happen.
See, absolutely. So many lessons learned. And now I want to talk more about this in great detail as the 10th anniversary is coming up, but that will be another conversation. Now we're going to shift gears and we're going to talk about how Standing Rock led to your first journey to Mexico, how you were reached out to at
Mm,
Standing Rock by Mexican indigenous communities, and then you came here, and that experience led you to found Sovereign Sisters, which is a project that is ongoing to this day, right?
yeah. If you're looking at the picture right now, you see that row of women. Um, we had nonviolent direct action, and there was training going on at the main camp. In the beginning, all of the majority of the people who were at the smaller camp, Sacred Stone, when the main camp was manifested, all of they moved to the main camp, and so um, we still had just a very small handful of people who were there from the beginning that were still at Sacred Stone. But we had Ladana, and we had the American horses. We had two, the people that came from the Rosebud camp. Well, actually, Rosebud set up their own camp. We set it up right next to Sacred Stone
Ah, right,
in
I remember.
yep, in solidarity, and then over 400 tribes came and set up their camps in solidarity. And that's what started me on my journey to travel everywhere because they each brought a flag and a letter of support to stand in solidarity with Standing Rock. So that was the first chant that all of the youth were posting was Stand with Standing Rock. And people were making posters, they were making T-shirts, they were using the internet, they were using social media, and that social media campaign took created a ripple effect around the world. People felt it. They could literally send that energy in a message, a video message, and people felt it, and they showed up by the thousands. The indigenous people, probably the biggest gathering that we've had in centuries, you know. So
Yeah.
there were over 400 tribes here, over 400 um, just
Mhm.
400 flags. And if you look for pictures on the internet, you'll see pictures of the flags of the tribes who came to support, and even other countries. Um, People from other countries came and they brought their flag too.
Mhm.
Um, and it was those flags that one day really, really spoke to me. It touched me to see all of those flags, and it was a moment of clarity for me. It happened like at dawn. We were driving into camp from the Black Hills concert. We had a Black Hills concert to return to Black Hills. That was the original goal, is to have a youth concert for the youth for 4 years to have this concert. And they did. And I went on the third year, I believe, maybe it was the third or fourth year. And I went to the concert and I came back to Standing Rock, and there were people who had donated this herbal medicine, like a trunk load, 2 trunk loads of all of this medicine. And so I followed them back to Standing Rock. And when they were in front of me, and as we were driving down Flag Road, they called it. The sun was just coming up, and it was it was beautiful. and it was quiet. The camp was so quiet you couldn't hear anything, and there was no movement. And then we came in, driving down Flag Row, and I saw all these flags. It was so quiet. I took my camera out, and I thought, oh, I want to take a picture of these flags because it represents all of the people who are here. And so I took my flag up, and I said, wow, it would be great if I could see the whole flag, and because then I could see, you know, the which flag it was, because all I could see basically they were all hanging down, and it was so still, nothing was movement. When I put it rolled on my window and I slowed down and I put my camera up to start taking pictures of these flags and I was driving slow, they uh, uh the wind lifted them up temporarily
Wow.
as I was going past them. So each one by one they opened up.
Wow.
So I could see them and I was just amazed and in the video I said, oh my goodness, look, you can see the flag. And they were opening up. So I kept driving down real slow and
Mm.
taking pictures of these flags. And then, of course, we came close to the end. We had to turn right because that's where they were heading. So then I turned right also. But it was at daybreak when this was happening. And that
Mm-hmm.
feeling of um, those feelings of those flags never left me. It's like the wind had heard my voice. And like the
Yeah.
wind was listening to all the prayers of whoever was there praying and I carried that. It was inside me, this beautiful feeling, this energy. So I asked my friend from Two Kettle, Vivian, um, to come with me because I wanted to speak, and I spoke, and that's where I met Diane and the owners, one of the residents of Litibu, Diane and Salvatore. They were sitting around the fire when I went to the speaker, and I had Vivian with me, and I prayed and I said that I recognize, the flags, the tribes that came to support us, and that I made a pledge that that it should be reciprocal. So they were in solidarity. They came to us to support us, then and gave us a letter. Then we should also reciprocate that effort to protect water on their lands. So I
Mm-hmm.
made a pledge to support their efforts to protect their water. If I was ever called, I would do that. And
Mm.
then after that, my things changed. Um, I'm sure it wasn't recorded, so it's probably not on anybody's video. But Diane and Salvatore heard me. They heard my prayer and they came up and they talked to me, and we've been family ever since then, since Standing Rock, and they have been very supportive. They had we had a little bit connection on Blue Water Creek, and it has to do with a massacre there, but we really became family in Standing Rock.
Mm.
Mm.
Wonderful. I knew you had a special relationship with water, Cheryl, but that story makes me feel like you have a special relationship with wind as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we have 20 minutes. We got a late start, and we have so much more to talk about. I have a feeling we're going to have this is going to be one of several conversations. We're going to have a series, but I would like to talk about sovereign sisters. And one of them, I just saw a comment from that's DL, who just sent a sweet comment. I'm not seeing it on the screen anymore, but yeah, DL. Thank you for being there. Thank you for also supporting all these years and the great work that you have done and supporting the Esperanza project as well. I really want to acknowledge that. And thanks to Sovereign Sisters, which Cheryl is going to talk about next, I was able to meet both DL and Diane, who are two women who I've learned so much from. But so you were in Mexico, and then somehow you were inspired to found the Sovereign Sisters. Can you tell us that story?
Yes. Um, I met a. I was. I participated in this ceremony um, in deep Mexico, the southern part of Mexico, and it had to do with Pleiades. So Pleiades, there's a ceremonial place in Mexico that honors Pleiades, and it has an altar, an ancient altar there. And so when Pleiades was right above this altar, there was this ancient ceremony that they always had to honor Pleiades. Well, I got invited to that ceremony, and at that time, I had finished, I think, 4 years sun dancing um, on my reservation, and I had received from my partner these ancient stones called the Seven Sisters, and he had received them from a well-known spiritual leader from our reservation. And
Mhm.
so they were called the Seven Sisters. And so I thought, oh my goodness, they're having the Pleiades Seven Sisters ceremony, and I got invited to it, so I'm definitely going to go. And I took those stones to the ceremony, and I put them on the altar. We made a beautiful altar. Indigenous people from all over the Mexico came and other countries, and we had a ceremonies and we to honor Pleiades and to keep the world in balance, um, and to acknowledge all of the gifts that we have received from Pleiades.
Wow.
That was
Was that at Palenque by chance?
it. May have been, but it's
Ah,
that the altar was there for Pleiades. That's it could have
amazing.
been. Is
Amazing.
but anyway, it was amazing. It was super hot, and I met Gladys Sanchez.
Mm.
Gladys um, is amazing force of amazing force. She's a spiritual woman, and she is like this. She reminds me of a she has the curiosity of a child because
Mm.
she wants to know everything. And at the time, she could hardly speak English. And so when I met her, and she introduced me to the elder that she was supporting, that was teaching her, um, they wanted to come to America. And I didn't think at the time that it was going to happen, but that what they made clear what their intentions were. That there were the places that they need to go pray at, and one of them was. So she didn't speak very good English, and I said, okay, I will agree. What we You teach me Spanish, and I teach you English, and she can speak English really well, and I can hardly speak Spanish because she was more energetic and enthusiastic, and she made it really clear. Made me repeat everything I was saying in English until she got it, and I should have been saying, repeat it to me in Spanish, repeat it to me in Spanish, but I was so accustomed to her just interpreting that it was much easier and it made more sense. It was quicker, and we eventually drove through Mexico
Mhm.
with this elder because my father's people are from Mexico, and so he
Mm.
had died in America um, after having a son, which is my dad, and so I went back to Mexico to find my people, my father's people, my grandfather's people, because he never went home. So I
Wow.
told that story that I'm carrying his bloodline back to Mexico because he never made it home. That's how I met Gladys. And with Gladys, she took me to these communities where I saw women in Oaxaca after the earthquake. They were making their bricks to rebuild the community. I went to another community where all of these women had formed a co-op to support the women, um, their beadwork and their sewing skills, and they were making these beautiful shirts, beautiful dresses. I went to every community I went to had women working together to um, enhance the community, to meet the needs of the community. They were, and it was amazing. I thought, oh my goodness, the cooperation between these women is unbelievable. We
Mhm.
went to a family taking care of turtles, the eggs of the turtles. We stayed at them and we supported them. We went to a community where they had midwives to train midwives, and a clinic for women to come with their husbands and birth their children. And when I saw all of these examples of what sovereignty looks like, and it looks like, the care and the love of community. It's like using the wisdom of your grandmothers and your grandfathers that have been passed over the centuries to for wellness and for that's actually ancient knowledge and ancient technology, but it comes from compassion for each other. It comes from treating each other with dignity and finding their place in community and respecting them and recognizing them and empowering one another.
And speaking of Gladys, there she is right now on that photo, that beautiful photo of working with a woman on the weaving. That
Yeah,
was an epic journey, and you were able to see things there that
yeah,
few people who come to Mexico get a chance to see, because you were seeing the real Mexico, where people
yep,
live and
yep,
where in the rural areas, because in the
yep.
cities we have a very modern Mexico too. That is,
Hmm.
I swear, Guadalajara is more like Houston than it is like rural Mexico, I think. But that was a real privilege to be able
Yeah,
to see,
yeah.
you know,
They
that.
they do hand weaving. They make their dresses. They make their curtains. They make their own bread. They have these old, not electrical stoves, but wood stoves. They're beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And then my last before we left, I think was in Oaxaca, and I saw the Freedom School. And that Freedom School was built for the students by hand. It was amazing because they taught the trades that you need to keep a community sovereign. So you don't have to rely on any sort of governmental assistance other than having the government, protect your boundaries so other people can't take your land. Um, but yeah, so it was amazing when I saw that. I said, oh my goodness, um, the indigenous people of the Americas in Mexico still have um, their access to everything, their land, their plants, their streams, their rivers, their materials, and each other. They have, and their songs and their dances, and despite colonization and capitalization and the patriarchy, they still are connected. The women are connected, and that connection really reminded me of Standing Rock. And I thought, okay, you know what, I need to get these women up here to show, the women in Americas, indigenous women in Americas, just how um, cooperative and what it looks like and what it feels like. And we can even like create our own community if we wanted to. We can. It's not that hard of a concept of working together using nature's resources. So yeah, that's how Sovereign Sisters started. I wanted to honor the sisters that
Yeah.
the lessons I learned from the sisters from Mexico. And I also wanted to say thank you for all of the women who actually did that at Standing Rock, because at Standing Rock we had medics, at Standing Rocks we had singers, at Standing Rocks we had skirt makers, at Standing Rocks we had cooks, at Standing Rocks we had organizations, at Standing Rocks we had strategy, we had nonviolent direct action, we had boots on the ground, we had all of these alliances. So Standing Rock, it just made, for me, Standing Rock showed that our people, we have that. We had that. It's just that we're so separated and far from each other that we weren't able to create these communities like that they still have in Mexico,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know.
You
But we
can
can.
you can really, really feel the difference. I think in some ways, well, the colonization stories of the North and the South are so different, and that's worth a whole other conversation in itself, right?
Right.
But meantime, we only have 5 more minutes, sadly.
Oh,
But I would like to dedicate that last 5 minutes to talking about Sovereign Sisters. And
yeah.
Kara's going to put up that story that I did for Yes Magazine that explains the whole wonderful event that
Mm.
Cheryl organized in the Black Hills. And I will share
Mm.
that on the website with the YouTube and the Facebook and everything as well, so people can learn more about it. But just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So recognizing women, empowering each other, um, appreciating and enhancing their skills and even expanding their knowledge. That was the goal of Sovereign Sisters. I really wanted to create a place where women of all colors here in America could actually get together and talk about the issues that the the Plains Indian woman, which I'm a Plains Indian woman, that 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 are affecting us today. So we wanted to talk about missing murdered Indigenous women. We wanted to talk about our economies. We wanted to talk about um, nonviolent direct action. We wanted to talk about the protection of watersheds. We wanted to talk about gee, I can't remember. I think we had like seven issues that we wanted to talk about. But most of all, what I envisioned was a team of women supporting and expanding the the sovereignty of women. You know, the sovereignty of nature, the sovereignty of indigenous tribes. So, yeah, indigenous sovereignty. It's a way for our reservation communities to get back on track because our reservation communities now are mostly colonized, and that colonization doesn't take into account our culture, our ceremonies, and our ability to govern in a more indigenous way. It's basically a copy of the Constitution that's slapped on, and it's like a boilerplate, our self determination. So that's really what I wanted to do. I wanted to empower so that we can really self become uh, sovereign, so that we can determine our own futures. You know, we can use our own knowledge. We can share knowledge across the Americas. That's what it was about sovereignty. And it was for us. I had to research what that meant, and ultimately, it meant being a good relative. You know, being a good relative. I'm not taking more. I'm not taking up all the space. It meant giving other people space, other women space, giving them their space, um, treating them with dignity, you know, because we have a lot of issues in our communities, our tribal communities, that women are working on. So, Sovereign Sisters, we have a group like that here in Rapid City. It's not called Sovereign Sisters, but we do it's a women led, and it's a strategy, and it's to meet community needs in the form of mutual aid. So we feed people, we register them to vote, we help them whenever we stop evictions.
You
Um,
nursed them through COVID.
yeah,
Cheryl had a big role in that in her community. Even the incredible number of people who were rendered homeless because of that. That's a
yeah,
whole other story, man.
yeah,
We've got
that's a whole
so
other
many
story.
stories we can talk about.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, so Sovereign Sisters is happening again. It probably won't happen in America because of the current administration and so many visas are not being approved. At the UN, the vice president of the Indigenous Forum was not even given a forum. So the UN that they had that didn't have a lot of the Indigenous people that needed to be there. So they weren't recognized and the visas weren't approved. So it's probably going to happen in another country. It's probably not going to happen in it because I want Indigenous people, Indigenous women, Indigenous communities. I want the issues to be talked about. I want to raise those issues.
Let's
Um,
bring it to
um,
Mexico. Why not?
yeah, bring it to Mexico.
Much for
Yeah,
here
I
and
would
there.
love to do it in Mexico.
Uh-huh.
Mexico, Chile.
I
Yeah,
think it sounds like a great idea. Let's do
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tracy, and thank
Thank
you,
you,
Dual.
Cheryl. Thank you. Would you like to? We have one more minute. If you'd like to share a final message with the group,
Yeah,
final for now, because we're going to
yeah,
meet again.
yeah. So I want to tell everybody here that the water that the the water that I protect is not just the watersheds of the world. It's just not the watersheds that flow in rivers and oceans, but it's the water that resides within you. You are water. And the water in me recognizes when you're in danger. The water in me recognizes that all humanity, our water is in danger. And we need to unite our waters to not only protect our rivers and streams, but our children and their future and our communities. So I see you. My water feels you. I'm going to thank you for all the good things that you're going to be doing for water, your internal waters and international waters.
That's so beautiful, Cheryl. I just thank you so much, and I'd like to add, Miniwichoni, water
Yeah,
is life.
yeah.
Many.
Mini Tony, water is life. I totally agree.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Blessings.